So if you remember, we have been going through this underthinking social media, underthinking content across the board training over the past kind of 4 to 6 weeks. If you haven't been through and watched the earlier ones, they are all live on YouTube, and you can also find them actually in the free community. So I'm just going to show you in here. They're all in here as well. So if you're watching this and you're in the free community, you can find them all here. And then this one will be added after that, or you can come and check them out on my YouTube channel as well. So that's super easy for you to go back and revisit anything that you've missed. But they've basically been stacking on top of each other for the past few weeks to really start to think about the things that are maybe holding you back from creating content consistently or from finding a flow. This is what I think more that we need to focus on than consistently showing up the same every day or doing things a certain way that I know so many of us really struggle with when it comes to content creation in particular. And what we have been through over the past few trainings is that this is actually thinking differently, creating a flow for yourself, starting with a content structure, starting with what feels just so easy to do instead of constantly piling our plate up with lots of different platforms and formats and different kinds of content, keeping it really simple. Then we talked about how to actually take your messaging and break that down into small bite-sized pieces as well, for the same reason, to make sure that we are actually taking a big idea and then being able to come up with so many different small ideas to talk about in our content, which means that not only are we able to be really, really specific with our people, we are able to give them a really quick win in the response. And we're also able to just keep coming up with new ways to talk about our work, which means that we have that sustainability and longevity for anyone who does get into that place where they're like, I just don't have any ideas left. I don't want to run out of ideas. I'm worried about that. Once you get into the flow of this, I promise you, you will have endless ideas to work with. Last week, we talked about the underthinking content loop. Let me just show you a little sneak peek of something that I have been playing with this week. I might need you all to test it out before I make it kind of available somewhere else. And I'm just sort of still working on the design and everything at the moment. But this is actually something that I'm playing with that is based off the content loop and what I talked about, and actually allows you to put your transcript or your blog post in here. And then as you do that, you will pick your formats and build your week of the kind of content that you actually want to turn that into. So we've been playing around with that this week. I am hoping to be able to test it and then share it with you in the Cozy Business Quest before making it potentially something that other people can access as well. So that's something that I'm just playing around with at the moment, because I know that you can have really good ideas. You can be able to even put this stuff together. But if you don't have a really simple system to be able to repurpose, to be able to take one idea and turn it into other things, and to be able to kind of do that in a way that builds a rhythm so that you're not starting from zero, you're not trying to decide what should I be doing this week, am I going to have time to do all of this? You actually start to create a rhythm for yourself. So let's talk about this week. This is a little bit of a soft skills one, a little bit less practical than we have talked about previously, but no less important. And this is another thing that I know a lot of us really can struggle with sometimes. And so don't worry if this is something that you know is the thing getting in your way a lot of the time. It is something that as solopreneurs, as business owners, as creative people, we are always going to be dealing with our mindset stuff, healing parts of ourselves that have maybe been impacted in the past. And all of those things are what stack up and also add to our visibility stuff. Our fear of being maybe rejected or having comments, made about us online and sharing it. Like that's that lack of safety that so many of us feel around sharing our work in a more public kind of and visible way. That these are all things that, as a part of our journey for the work that we're here to do and what it is that we want to share and feel passionate about, for some reason we've chosen this path that has then meant we are kind of public facing, we are creating maybe a personal brand, we are sharing videos of ourselves and sharing our work in a public kind of way. So this is not to dismiss any of that. All of the feelings are valid. All of the things that come up for you are completely valid. And also, how can we use this as a way to create that safety for ourselves so we don't have control over so much of what is happening in the online space? So what is it that we can do to show up the best that we can? And this is one of many, many different things that I could have chosen to talk about specifically around content creation. And this is one that I know a lot of people really get stuck with because, unfortunately, in order to be able to do anything, you have to be willing to be bad at it for a little while. And when it comes to creating and sharing content and our work with the world, we have to kind of do that in a fairly public kind of way. And there are ways around this. There are sort of ways that you can gently expand that and build that safety, take care of your nervous system before you go in big ways, because we're not all going to go from 0 to 1 million followers overnight. And the way that the algorithms all work and all of the things are operating right now, it is super unlikely that that is going to happen. And so the best thing about starting is that not that many people are going to be paying attention. And so that gives us space to be bad. That gives us space to practice, to play, and to use that mindset of, I'm just going to try this and see what happens, to continue building resilience for ourselves around the fact that that is most of what business is. That most of what business is actually just learning new things, giving them a go, and then deciding, do I want to continue doing this or am I going to try something else? And we want to do that for enough of a period of time to collect data, because I know people will start an Instagram account, they'll put 3 posts up and then they'll go, nobody cares. And it's like, yes, that is part of the initiation. That is part of the journey that you're on to keep showing up anyway. And instead of waiting until we're good at content or we're good at marketing or we're good at messaging or talking about our work or speaking on camera or answering questions, we want to start with that beginner's mind and continue that way. Every opportunity that you have to show up and talk about your work is a chance for you to learn something new about it, to explore a different way to talk about it, to get to share your work with people without it costing you anything, without having to make a big, huge investment. And that is the way that I think about content, that I get to show up every day and talk about the work that I love and why I love it and how it helps people. So when we let go of we have to be good at this and we shift into a place of I'm learning, and we can just continue being in that place forever. You'll know in the Cozy Business Quest that I'm always talking about what I'm trying right now, what I'm experimenting with, what I'm learning, what I'm changing, what's evolving, what has shifted in the market, which is also another element we have to take into consideration, that we can't just nail it and then assume that the things that we've been doing are always going to work. We need to be in a place where we're open to experimenting and trying new things and taking the path less traveled and just being excited with the idea of getting to explore our work in this way. And I know that's a really hard thing to say, especially if you're in a place where it has been a long winter or it has felt harder than normal lately, or you are just starting out and you only have 16 followers and you're wondering how to cut through that noise. I understand that. And I just want to really still invite you to think about how you can just have fun with it and make it joyful and feel the excitement of getting to talk about your work in different ways. So the pressure to be good is the main thing that's making your content worse as well, because we're seeing this with AI. We're seeing how when we just kind of put something into ChatGPT. Hey, write me a post with 6 points to do this thing. We're going to get generic content. We're seeing it so much already in the online space. And I don't know about anyone else's feeds. You can spot it a mile away. And the more us we can be, the more we're actually going to stand out in the space, which makes it a really exciting opportunity for so many of us to just be our quirky, weird, kooky selves, right? So, this is the point of this video, to hopefully convince you that yes, we can use AI to make our lives a bit easier and to repurpose our words into other ways to talk about it, other angles that we may not have thought about before. Exactly what I spoke about in the content loop video. But if we can be willing to not be perfect and just be trying things out and giving it a go, there is something so much more appealing in that. And you're going to learn from the ground. So, the pressure trap is, of course, when good means perfect, polished, and high performing. Every post becomes high stakes, and the pressure makes showing up feel like an performance. And eventually, you just don't want to do it anymore because it's not what you signed up for. It doesn't feel good, and it feels like a lot of work to show up in that way. The reframe is that content is actually not a performance, it is a practice. And every post is your opportunity to get reps on the board talking about your work. The small act of expressing your work in public, getting slightly better at it each time. Like, even after all these years, I will have conversations with my one on one clients and my emerge and expand members, and they will say something or we will get into a conversation. And I realize there's this whole other facet of my work that I've never really talked about before in a public kind of way. So every time that we get to talk about our work, we get to just go a little bit deeper into something or really focus in on one area of our work, spend a whole season there if we want, and then be able to evolve in other ways over time as well. And those reps on the board mean that it feels easier to show up for. We get more kind of natural talking about what we're doing, and it doesn't feel like a huge energy output all the time because we've sort of started to build up that resilience or build those muscles around it. And then it's just a case of like, how can I now be more efficient? How can I do this differently? How can I create systems so that in busy weeks or when other stuff is going on, I still have this part working, because this is doing the front facing work while I'm working on other things behind the scenes. And when we think about building trust or building authority, the people who get known in their space are rarely the ones with the most viral posts. Like, when we look at social media content and the people who are teaching at the gurus of social media and content creation and trending reels and viral carousels and all of those things, they're definitely appealing to content creators. What we need to think about differently as business owners is that we actually aren't content creators. We are business owners who are creating content, and it is a different thing. Content creators are making money from going viral, from getting a certain number of impressions, and then crafting brand deals and things to be able to say, I see this many people saw my post and you can pay me this much money as a result. But most of us don't want that. And in fact, going viral is actually the worst thing that we can do, because our work is not necessarily for mass appeal and our businesses are not designed to actually have huge influxes of people. For so many of us here, I know we are solopreneurs, we have memberships and things, but the more people that, that is going to expand over time. But if that happened in a really quick burst with a viral video, there would be things that would break along the way there. So we want to build and grow in a sustainable kind of way. And so by showing up, by expressing your ideas, by sharing different ways that you maybe help your clients or your modality or your work has supported you over the years, why you have become so passionate about this, that is going to help you not only find different ways to connect with your people and show them how you might be a solution to helping them thing that they're trying to work out right now, but also it gives you practice to talk naturally about what you do and find different ways to talk about that. So that is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to go viral. The only TikTok video that I still have, I don't think I can share my screen here, but the only one that I've kept on there is the one that went viral. It was let me see if I can show you here, a screen recording of a Doctor Who clip. And it was the most viral a piece of content of mine has ever gone. It has had 200,000 views, and it didn't have anything to do with my business. And what it meant was I got a huge influx of followers and things, and all of the vanity metrics of likes and comments and all of that. And it didn't have anything to do with my business. It did not help me move my business along at all. And yet, posts that have like 2 likes on them can bring people into our DMs asking us about working together further. And so we want to focus less on the vanity metrics and actually start looking at different kinds of data. What starts conversations with people in the DMs? What leads to people wanting to connect with us further or check out some other work of ours, or actually have a conversation with us, which for so many of us is the thing that we're actually trying to achieve here. So the mindset reframe here is, instead of thinking this needs to be perfect before I post it, we don't get a say in what perfect is. If anyone has ever watched Ted Lasso, there's my favorite conversation about perfectionism that I've ever heard, where they talk about things that are perfect songs, perfect meals, perfect circumstances or situations, but that people aren't perfect. And so if we're sitting there trying to come up with the perfect post or trying to get it right, we actually don't know what that is until we get the feedback and the data back from that. So instead of it needs to be perfect before I post, think about sharing it before it feels ready and then improving it next time, because often the most random spur of the moment thoughts that come into our head are the most genuine and actually the most relatable as well. Some other things: this post failed, I should try something different. Now, maybe that is true, but maybe the idea is actually good and I'm going to just change the hook of it. The hook was maybe not the strong point. Well, we can look at the data and we can say, okay, this was a 20-minute video and I lost people in the first 10 seconds. Maybe I need to work on my hooks a bit better and try that, change the hook, and then use the same piece of content and then see what happens. Maybe I need to turn it from a reel into a carousel and build out a little bit more content. Maybe I need to take this short form video and make it into a longer form one. So it's not necessarily just throwing out all our ideas, but thinking about different ways that we can make them work or try different ways of talking about it. Sometimes you'll find that your best hook is actually like slide 3 of your carousel, and all you need to do is swap it out with slide 1. Maybe change the colors a bit if you want to, or post it in 6 months. No one will remember, and try that hook instead. And I can't tell you how often that actually works. Sometimes we just don't know what the right hook is because we're too close to it. And that is what this whole mindset shift is about. We're so close to our own content that we can't actually objectively say what's good or not. I don't know about anyone else. I'm super harsh on my work. So if I made that decision before I posted something, I would never post anything. So we actually just want to get stuff out, see what happens, and then make decisions about our next steps from there. The more we can do that, the quicker we're going to get the data that we need that helps us to see which angles are connecting with people, what topics they're liking, and what is actually really working with the right people who are bringing them into our world and then taking that next step with us. Because again, if it's viral, it doesn't necessarily mean it's connecting with your right people who are ready to go and work with you further. And so in saying that, instead of thinking I need to find a post that goes viral, think I need to keep getting better at expressing my work. Visibility compounds slowly rather than all at once. And sure, you might go viral. You might decide that is absolutely what you want to do, and that is fine. But you want to make sure that you actually have the foundations of your offer and everything in place, because if you are focusing on going viral, you want to make sure that A, those people convert, and also that you have the infrastructure to be able to hold that if that does happen. I can always remember that when a couple of years ago, when I started talking about community a lot, because I know there's a lot of noise out there, it came from a place of seeing so many people build huge followings on TikTok around 2020 to 2023, like millions of followers in a way they've never been able to do on Instagram or YouTube. And yet they couldn't get people to give them $5 to fund their project or to follow them on Patreon or to be a part of their membership or something like that. And I remember thinking at the time, if you've got mass appeal as like an entertainer, as someone who goes viral a lot, that's one thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that those people are ready at that point in the journey to take action, and they're not necessarily the right people that you want to work with. So, like, why would we be worrying about going viral when instead we can create content that's just really going to connect with our people who are absolutely ready to take that next step with us? And then instead of thinking I should not repost old content, people will notice. This is from last week's little throwback. Think this instead. Your audience is not cataloging your past content. Good ideas deserve more than one showing. New people will find you that have maybe not seen any of your content before. Different ways of talking about the exact same thing, or again, changing that first slide or whatever it might be, are going to connect with people differently. Someone might have seen a post of yours 3 months ago and scrolled past it, but today it was exactly what they needed to hear. And if there is somebody following you so closely that they notice something that you posted 6 months ago, they are really paying attention to you. And that is definitely worth having a conversation with them to find out what it is that they're looking for, that they are spending so much time consuming your content. And maybe you can help them further in one of your paid programs. So I'm going to just run through this quickly. The practice. 4 things to do. Share ideas before they feel completely ready. Done and imperfect is more useful than polished, and never posted. And what you'll see in the group that we have the Underthinking social media training. Let me just share this tab instead in here. And in here are a bunch of templates. They're all in the sheet here when you open this up, that you can just create really, really fast and easy content. You can also use AI if you prefer. And basically, what you will see is you will see templates like this one, where you just put a photo of yourself in, and then you take something you've been talking about and you add it. Really, this took me 10 minutes last night to put this together because it came straight from the transcript of my last video. And there's one for the Notes app one as well, that again, you can just take the transcript from your last video or your blog post or an email that you wrote that got a really good response and break it down into a really simple carousel. That's just a little shortcut for you of something to think about of how you can do it. Get it up, get it out, because that's your testing angles. So if a post that you've made in 10 minutes does do well, imagine what would happen if you then went and put a bit more information into it, padded it out a bit, added some implementable steps or some resources and turned it into something like that's going to help you to know this is something that my audience is really invested in. And it took me 10 minutes to discover that, versus spending hours and hours creating a program for them or a resource or something like that, and then realizing that nobody is interested in it when you could have just tested it with some 10-minute content on social media. Reuse and improve old ideas. If the idea was worth posting once, it's worth revisiting with better framing or a stronger hook. And I do this all the time because I kind of have this collection of ideas that all work together, and over the years they've evolved. But sometimes it's really worth going back to your old content and your old videos, your old posts, to see what did really well that you can pull forward into, like, okay, I talked about it like that, 3 years ago, but I've changed so much since then, or I've got new examples that I could add or new information that I could contribute to this, that I can pull that piece of content and recreate in a different way, or just repurpose it and reuse it. So those ideas are never wasted. There's always something else that you can do with them. Focus on getting better at expressing your work, not on performing for the algorithm, because again, we don't necessarily want to go viral as solopreneurs. And if you are fixated on whether the algorithm loves you or hates you, you will just never create content, because it changes. I think they change it every week on most of the platforms. They're always tweaking things. And even if you got to a point where you could become an algorithm darling and every post got a huge amount of views, next week they could change it and that could all be gone, and you'd have to start all over again trying to figure it out. And so instead of constantly changing your tactics and your systems and methods of doing things, just getting into a rhythm of showing up and knowing that over time it's going to compound and people are going to find you. Your people are going to find you. And that is so much more valuable than pleasing the algorithm gods and trying to go viral and doing things that you don't want to do, that aren't natural for you, that aren't sustainable and that feel really icky and weird. Is so much better to just do what's you and just know that your people are going to find you, but you need to keep committing to that and showing up for it. And in saying that, ignore trying to go viral. Viral moments are not a strategy. Consistent, specific, honest content is a strategy. And the reason so many people did well on TikTok back in the early 2020s is because they were mostly like in their pajamas, lying sideways on their bed, like not with the good angles and the ring lights and all of the things, just being really real about the world at that current point in time. And that was deeply resonant with so many people. And that just really helps them to blow up. So it's really worth thinking about. So I've got a reflection prompt for you because, of course, I do. Where specifically is the pressure to be good stopping you from posting? Is it the ideation stage, the writing stage, or the moment before you hit publish? What would you post this week if you removed that pressure entirely? So really pay attention next time you sit down to create something to notice at what point is my own mind getting in my way and holding me back? Is it that the creating the graphics is taking too long and that is a point of resistance for you? Is it that you just stare at that blank screen and you don't know what you should be writing about? Is it that when you go to hit publish, you chicken out and you go, no, I'm not going to do it? Really pay attention to that because it's going to tell you so much about what's actually going on under the surface, that social media or content right now is kind of that's the pain point for you. That's the thing that's like really front of mind. But when you take that step back and actually look at what point is it bothering you? Is it stopping you from moving forward? Because that is where the real magic is. And when you can have awareness around that for yourself, it's going to really help you to move forward and figure out what that is and then how you can move through that. If it is about the tech, how can you make that easier? How can you buy templates or even create templates for yourself so that you don't have that extra burden of trying to figure out the tech and instead you just have to input the information and then publish it. So really paying attention to that this week. I would love to know if you're in the Visibility Vault group or in Cozy Business Quest. You can come in as well and let's have a conversation about it because I'm super interested to know, even if just having that awareness shifts the way that you think about showing up and creating. You do not need to be good at content. You need to keep practicing expressing your work in public, imperfectly, consistently. That is the whole thing. And if you don't want to do that and you cannot see a world where that's something you're going to want to do, business may not be in this way, may not be the right thing for you. And I mean that just with so much empathy and compassion because most of us, like I said, straight from the beginning, we didn't get into business to become marketing experts, to become social media gurus, to become content creators or influencers or anything like that. But being able to talk about your work in different ways and share it with people and connect with them is vital to being able to actually get your work out in the world. Now, there are obviously so many different ways that you can do that. And the most important thing that you can do is in a way that is supportive of your strengths and really aligned with you and doesn't freak your nervous system out every time you try and do it. We obviously have the capacity as human beings to heal those parts of ourselves, to build that resilience and that nervous system safety. But sometimes we have to take that step back and figure that part out, or we have to do it by taking small, small steps at a time. And then one day we look back and we go, oh my gosh, a year ago, I never would have done that. And I can't tell you how many clients I work with who tell me that they were freaking out about something 6 months ago or a year ago. And now it's something they don't even think about because they have a system. They've built that nervous system resilience. They've got a plan for what they're doing. They're not just kind of treading water and swimming around in circles and wearing themselves out. They've got the support. They've tested things out and they've had those mindset shifts that help them to realize that this is not a game of popularity. This is just showing up and talking about your work. And I was saying to someone the other day in a different group that I'm in who said, does this ever get easier? And the thing is, this is why I call it the quest, because even as we get better at things and we face our biggest boss level, we face our biggest fear, we face our biggest hurdle or challenge in our business, we get through that and get out the other side. And we might be a bit kind of bruised and, a bit tired at the end of it. We get out the other side of that. We've picked up some new skills. We've got some new experiences. We survived that. And then guess what? We move up to the next level. And then all of a sudden, everything is like all new skills we have to learn, new things we have to take on board or that we have to expand into. And so thinking about it like, does it ever get easier? No, you just get better at being able to shift and adapt and try new things and experiment and be open to the fact that I'm always going to be a part of me is learning something new. A part of me is continuing to show up anyway. And another part of me is there's always going to be something that changes here at some point. And so even when something is working, I need to be prepared to pivot at any time. And I have everything I need to do that. And I promise you, that's one of the best skills that I've ever learned in business. And it means more than anything else put together. So I'm just going to quickly show you the last step. You've possibly already had a look at this because obviously this companion has been out for a little while now. But what we also have here at the end is the complete system put together in a way that you can go through, you can check things off, and you can just be reminded over and over again of how, like what we've talked about over the past 4 trainings, and what is just going to help you create the start maybe of a flow for you that you can keep showing up for. Like I said, I'm working on something a little bit more interactive that is based on the skill that I shared in the group the other day, and is just making it even easier for you, where you'll literally just be able to paste your transcript in, and it's going to give you all the ideas for how to take that one idea and turn it into a bunch of other content that you want for your week or your month. And that just takes, again, a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of the thinking out of it, but you're still creating content that sounds like you and isn't generic AI content. But for now, and for anyone who's watching this on YouTube as well, you've got a checklist here of thinking about your platforms, thinking about your weekly rhythm, what small problems can you solve, and then how can you either create one piece of content that you can turn into other content, or take existing content and breathe new life into it as well. I also have another training that I am planning in a few months' time where you can take this content and actually turn it into other products as well. I did this as a training maybe 5 years ago, I think it was now. And it's literally about how to find your best pieces of content and then take those and turn them into a digital product that you can then add on top for people who enjoyed that content or obviously resonated with what you talked about. But yeah, this is the full Underthinking workflow, and you have that there for you as well. I hope that you found this series helpful, if not just a little bit thought-provoking and something that's maybe shifted something for you in your content creation. Please come into the group and let me know, because I'd love to chat further about it or answer any questions you have or support you as you're building your own flow as well.